Good afternoon. Happy New Year. January 1st, 2022. We're going to go to episode 2 of The Last Admiral. All right. And I had this wonderful St. Joseph's Indian School bookmark. It's a great cause. Give to Indian schools. Okay. All right. The will. We'll begin where we left off last time. It's only going to be about 3 pages, and then I promise the boring will be over. Okay. Second, I hereby bequeath, absolutely and forever, all rights and claims to my property in its entirety, including, but not limited to, the estate, mansion, and surrounding deeded lands equaling 22,001 acres, water rights and domesticated beasts, to my only son, Vlad Lucharon, who at the time of this writing has now reached the age of manhood at 16 years of age, as his sole and absolute property if he shall survive me. Furthermore, all concerns regarding monetary wealth associated with the estate shall also pass to my son, Vlad Lucharon, under his singular absolute control, except as designated by him in writing, this being, as of this date, the net treasury sum of 1,476 drachmas, and additional leased sums due to the estate from our properties in the Shattered Isles, totaling approximately 14,122 drachmas per month. Third, in the event that my son shall not survive me, I bequeath, absolutely and forever, all of my estate and my aforementioned properties to my stepson, Darik at the time of my death, should he survive us both. Fourth, except as otherwise provided in this will, I have intentionally failed to provide for any other relatives or persons, whether claiming to be an heir of mine or not. Insofar as I have failed to provide for any other claimants to this will, such failures are intentional and not the result of accidents or mistakes on my part. Fifth, it is my will that my son Vlad Lucharon shall henceforth remain the sole bearer and right holder to the signet ring of House Lucharon, passed from father to son since before the time of recorded history. No other being shall hold legitimate claim as the head of House Lucharon, unless so bequeathed by myself or my son in writing. And I chose for the Dragonian currency the drachma of ancient Greece, and the footnote explains that. Sixth, I bequeath the family sword Shimpa Gruel to my son Vlad Lucharon, who, unless he should produce a child, shall be the last legitimate heir to the sword. This, my last will and testament, shall not be modified or added to, except by my own living hand. Therefore, do I solemnly swear on this 17th day of Sanguis, 2028. In witness whereof, I have at Centurio Domus, Northern Shangsun Province, this date, Sanguis, 17/2028, set my hand and seal to this my last will and testament, consisting of 6 handwritten pages, each page bearing my handwritten signature. The foregoing instrument was at Centurio Domus, Northern Shangsun Province, Dragonia, this day, Sanguis 17/2028. Signed, sealed, published, and declared by Aklon Lucharon, the testator, to be his last will and testament, in the presence of Mr. Wraith Vertorier, my son, Vlad Lucharon, and my stepson, Darik and in the presence of each other, have hereunto subscribed our names as attesting witnesses, and we do so verily believe that the said testator is of sound and disposing mind and memory at the date hereof. Signed, Mr. Wraith Vertorier, Vlad Lucharon, Darik butler, and son and stepson. After selecting another sheet of clean vellum, he wrote, Admiral Aklon Lucharon, Centurio Domus, Shangsun Province, Dragonia, Mr. Wraith Vertorier, head butler, Centurio Domus. Letter of intent regarding the matter of my last will and testament. Dear Mr. Wraith, in addition to my wishes that I have carefully laid out in my will, I hereby request that you will see to the fulfillment of my further intentions laid out in this letter. It is my wish that my present honorable employees should remain at the Centurio Domus in excellent service to my sons for so long as they willfully desire. Being as ever freemen and free women of House Lucheron, I further wish that my son shall award each of them 100-acre parcel of estate lands, complete with a well-built house and barn, 10 each head of cows and bulls, 20 swine, 20 goats, and 20 chickens, as a reward for their years of loyal service. In addition, it is my wish that you, Wraith, manage the daily affairs and employees of the estate, and I give you the full authority, responsibility, and right to do so, with absolute governance reserved for my son Vlad in all final matters. My son or lawful heir will render important decisions regarding estate lands, property, or personal matters, unless they also appoint you to perform in their stead regarding individual matters. Furthermore, Vlad will remain the lawful bearer and wielder of the family signet ring and the family sword Shimpa until my return, or forever, in the event that you receive news of my death. Carry out the wishes of this document and my last will and testament to the letter upon the occurrence of my demise. So I solemnly swear, on the 17th day of Sanguis, 2028, Admiral Aklon Lucheron, Admiral, 11th Fleet, the Queen's Royal Navy, witnessed by Wraith Victoria, Vlad Lucheron, and Darik and Vlad. The next chapter, entitled Correspondence. 2 messages arrived that day. The first was Aklon's letter from High Command, but the second was Vlad's missive from the military academy. Wraith promptly delivered them both. Receiving them with a nod, Aklon returned Vlad's correspondence, having already suspected what it contained. Wraith, Aklon directed, please inform my son that I will see him at noon. I shall deliver your message with the letter, sir. Very well, Aklon replied. And where might I find him, sir? He is in the meditation room. I should have known, Wraith affirmed. But may I ask, sir, why don't you summon him as usual? On this day, Wraith, Aklon asserted, we must keep our thoughts to ourselves. Of course, sir, he replied, with a slight bow before he left. Aklon spent the interim assembling a few papers that he would need for the coming journey. The meditation room. Vlad sat in a lotused posture, his hands resting comfortably on his knees. His haircut met military regulations. His blue eyes were open. He was uncovered save for a simple loincloth and his own skin. Lean and fit, he was in that prime of his life that a young man enjoys for but a brief while, before his body broadens into manhood. The room was square and plain, 30 by 30 feet square, its bare white walls enchanted to prevent spying with magic. Vlad sat at its center, levitating an arm's span from the floor. Before him, a crystal setchboard floated, its black and silver pieces cast and carved from platinum and painted well. Methodically, Vlad competed against himself, moving one piece with his thoughts, then rotating the board and countering. Capturing a piece, he removed it, and these spun and hovered about the room, dancing with each turn of his mind's whims. He would walk across the floor for an added challenge, then up one wall, across the ceiling, and down another. Wraith knocked upon the chamber door. Upside down and suspended from the ceiling by his feet, he responded. Young master, Wraith said, your father requests your presence in the great room at noon. I have a letter for you, sir. Knowing that it could only be one thing, he could barely contain his excitement. In one hasty, bold stroke of telekinesis, he returned all the pieces to the board, moving them back to their original starting positions, and then lowering the assembly to the floor. Releasing his mental hold, he somersaulted as he fell, landing like a cat, He rushed to the room's only door and opened it in the old-fashioned way. Wraith waited patiently, his shoes black and spit-shined, his hair short, neat and well-combed. Dressed in the finest tuxedo of the day, every brass button on his jacket was highly polished, and every panel flatly pressed. All traits that had remained with him since his army days. He was professional with uncompromised composure. He was Doc Alfar, tall and pointy-eared. His mustache was prominent, long and straight, hanging below his chin, from which his similar style beard descended. His eyes were red, for he had been born in Eternus Nox. Caring little for bright sunlight, he had adapted to it with difficulty over the course of many years, in order to serve his masters in their sunlit world. He was also the only one besides Darik who knew of his master's secret mental talents, abilities passed down from fathers to sons for 10,000 years. He would die before he revealed their secret. Here is your letter, sir. Thank you, Wraith, Vlad replied. Receiving the letter, he could contain himself no longer. He opened it in a jiffy. The Lucheron Estates, Centurio Domus. Attention, Vlad Lucheron. 134 High Street, East County, Shangsun, Dragonia. Then I get the term for Dark Elves, Dark Elfar, from the Nordic term for the Dark Elves of Svartalfheim, one of the 9 worlds of the Norse myths. And that's what that footnote relates. Okay. Page 22, continuing. Wong Long, Abbot of the Temple, Shangsun Military Academy, 444 Dyer Drive, West County, Shangsun, Dragonia. And Wong Long was a real abbot of the Shaolin Temple, founder of the Wah Lum Kung Fu system. Okay. Dear candidate, after careful review of your application and comparing your test scores with a wide range of well-qualified applicants, I am hereby delighted to inform you that we have accepted your application for admission into the freshman class of 2028. Please return your acceptance of this nomination in writing no later than the end of this moon cycle for your addition to the Academy roster. Upon accepting this appointment, you must report to the Evergreen Admissions Center building of the Academy no later than the 1st of Glacies. Please be aware that your acceptance into the Academy is your solemn bond. During enrollment, students are restricted to Academy grounds except during events of family emergencies or other extreme cases. Upon completing your studies, you will receive your first commission sometime during the month of Sengui 2032. Following graduation, junior officers receive their first authorized leave of absence. And the footnote is glacies, meaning ice frost, used here to denote an astronomical period when the ice moon of Tempus, the planet where the story takes place, is again full, and also is the name of the ice moon in the Duaredheim Staff Saga. And sanguis, meaning blood, denoting when the blood moon is full. Okay, continuing. Consider this appointment carefully. Candidate Lucheron acceptance is the equivalent of your sworn oath to the Royal Navy and the Empire of Dragonia. I anxiously await your decision. Wong Long, Abbot. Is it good news, sir? The best, Vlad. The best, he declared. In an uncharacteristic move, Vlad gripped him in a hearty embrace. Wraith smiled and returned it. I'm in. They have accepted my application into the Academy. Tremendous news, sir, Wraith replied. I shall have a special meal prepared at once. And I shall have to tell Darik right away. He received the letter today as well, sir. He must have been accepted. Don't forget your father, sir. Of course not, Wraith. I shall see him at noon. Not bothering to dress, he ran through the mansion, past many of the curious household staff, until he came to his most trusted friend and stepbrother's room. Darik's door was open. Indeed, he had already begun to pack. Their eyes locked. Darik wore his best poker face. Vlad's expression was wild with anticipation and unease. They have accepted you as well? I need to pack. I can't stay here any longer. I'm too ashamed to tell Father. Then you mean to tell me, Vlad asked? That I'm going with you. Grinning broadly, Darik couldn't drag things out any longer. Extending his hand, they shook fiercely. You had better hurry and pack your things. We have some traveling to do. We don't have to report for several days. I know, Darik asserted, but I just want to be ready. I'll see you at dinner then, Vlad said. I must tell Father. Unable to stand still, he left in a flash. Darik packed thoughtfully, always practical. He thought of such things as the weather and changing seasons as he selected his clothing and pleasantries. He was Aklon's beloved adopted son, the result of a promise that Aklon had made to his dying father on the battlefield. Aklon kept his promises, and the Admiral had been the only true father that he had ever known. He was nervous like any new student would be before going to a new school, but this was different. The military academy of Shangsun was the school, the birthplace of the most elite force in the Empire's military, the Jacquard. The fact that they both were accepted was in itself a miracle. Almost every applicant had perfect test scores and placed at the top of their classes. There were many things to consider: what to pack, what to study in preparation, and the legendary hell weeks of hazing that all the new candidates had to endure. Thinking it through as he packed, he soon concluded that there was absolutely no way to be prepared. He and Vlad would have to get through it as they always did, by attacking it head on. Deep in his thoughts, Aklon stood before his wife's portrait. She was beautiful. Her portrait always took his breath away, even though it was just an image. But his memories were sharper still. Truly, he saw not the portrait at all, but his wife's immortal soul. Her eyes danced, sparkling and mischievous, but wise. Her hair was as black as the midnight sea, and with moon's light glistening. I was hard on them, Keturah, he cried, and though his heart listened for an answer, none came. He knew what she would have said, though, and with that he found the strength to carry on, and he spoke to her. I knew their limits, and I pushed them like the best Marines in my command. I found their gifts and their strengths, and together we perfected them. If only you could have seen it. Darik's fascination for magic and his capacity for mechanical things is a miracle. If only I had more time, I would complete his instruction in the arcane sciences. One day he will become a great sorcerer, but he has not yet chosen his school, and I fear the path that he is most likely to take. He is so much like his father, and that is why I fear for him. Vlad, well, he outshines us all. I have taught him everything that I know, and he has learned so much more on his own. If he can learn to channel his energies and focus, there are no limits as to what he might achieve. It is time. The dawn of the prophecy, as your seeress foretold. The queen comes for me, and she will soon come for him as well. However, not all is lost, for we have a plan. She will rule the day that she declared war on our house. One of us will see her fall from reign and her people freed. Of this I swear. Our love will reunite us. Wait for me. Turning away, he lowered his head, but shed not a tear. He was father, master, husband, and teacher. But once more he must become the Admiral. He heard war's cry, the roar of the dragon. Hardening his resolve, he prepared to meet with his son. And that's where we'll leave off, beginning the next episode with the chapter entitled Noon. Thank you for listening, and have a great night. Till we meet again.